Webflow creates a design masterclass and the crowd goes wild. Notion's newest competitor is WordPress, and Slack and Atlassian team up. That and more on this week's PLG123. Let's dive in. Tab 1 is from Product Hunt and is about Webflow's launch of Webflow University. Now, as you can see here from Product Hunt, this was the #1 product for the week of August 6th. So you know it must be good if it's the #1 product for an entire week on Product Hunt. Now, on the one hand, this is not unique at all. Many SaaS companies launch universities and different education portals in order to get people up the curve on how to use and master their product. And that's exactly what this is from Webflow. But it's not only that. Now, I said that it's a masterclass because it really appears to be exactly that. On two fronts. One, on the breadth of what's covered here, and two, on the production value. So first, on the scope of what's covered here, it's not just here's how you use all the features and functionalities of Webflow. That's helpful and important, but there's a lot more here. So when I pull up university.webflow.com, it starts to reveal how much is under the hood here with the university product. There are the expected things like a Webflow 101 crash course, and courses that tailor to different levels of maturity in terms of user profiles, whether it's a beginner or an advanced user. Again, we're still in the zone of fairly common things for an education portal from a SaaS company. But here's where it gets a little bit different and more like a masterclass. As you browse the content, you start to see that there's a lot more just about design in general and getting the uninitiated much more educated on design principles and design concepts and graphic design elements. And so you start to see how Webflow University is not just a helpful tool to learn how to use and master Webflow, but also it's an access point for people to become much more design fluent. And to me, that's kind of a bit of what Webflow represents anyway. It's making advanced graphic design and web design much more accessible to the masses. And the second thing I mentioned is the production value. Watch one of these videos, watch the launch video. It's incredibly well produced, like a masterclass, and also entertaining. There's some good humor elements in here. Tab 2 is from WordPress and is their newest product called P2. Now, we all know and love WordPress. After all, WordPress hosts over 30% of the internet's websites. But what you might not know about WordPress is that the company behind WordPress, which is called Automattic, is a remote-first company. And now everybody has become a remote-first company in 2020, but Automattic has done it since day one. And that puts Automattic in a unique position to educate the rest of us on what remote work looks like at scale and how to avoid some of the most common pitfalls and where people stub their toe quite often. So bringing in this product called P2, it's the product that they say they use internally to manage remote work. So that's the tee up. Now, looking into the actual product itself, you will very quickly recognize that there are many similarities to Notion and other products that have grown in popularity recently. You got your obligatory emoji support, so there's Notion element number 1. But then as you start to see what an actual P2 board, or I'm not quite sure what they call it, but a P2 instance looks like, you start to see a lot more similarities in feature functionality, design layouts to a Notion or a similar type of product. You got note-taking, you got chat, you got collaboration, you got @mentioning, you got the ability to embed smart widgets and elements, you name it. Now, it's not just Notion that this will remind you of. It's also Coda and Slight and Quip, which is owned by Salesforce, and Rome Research, and the list goes on. There are many products that are going after this broad opportunity, and it's going to be interesting to see how this product category plays out. Clearly, Notion is the brand leader and seems to have a ton of traction. Will it become a winner-take-all market, or is there going to be more than one winner here, depending on use case or type of company or segment of the market? The last thing that I'll say about P2, which might be the Trojan horse opportunity for them here, is quite frankly looking at the story of Slack. So if you're not familiar with the story of Slack, Slack did not start as Slack. Slack started as a gaming studio, and in their effort to be a game studio and collaborate, they found many difficulties, and they wanted a chat-based solution, so they built an internal tool which later became Slack the entire company pivoted to Slack, and the rest is history. Now, I don't think we're going to see a pivot from WordPress to a new product because WordPress, again, owns more than 30% of the internet, but it'll be interesting to see if this brings almost a second act, if you will, into the Automattic and WordPress story that could be an equally strong pillar to the business. And I would trust this more than your average company just because Automattic has been remote first since day one, so there is some real credibility. And tab 3. Tab 3 is from TechCrunch and is about the increased partnership and collaboration between Slack and Atlassian. Now, Slack and Atlassian are two of our favorite products in the product-led world, clearly, but we're seeing them come closer together with deeper integrations and business relationships as well. Now, you may remember a few years back when Atlassian sold HipChat and its Stride communication products to Slack. Slack then said they were going to shut them down, but there was also this promise that, don't worry guys, we're going to have a deep relationship and integration into the future. As the TechCrunch article calls out, most partnerships just end up being that one press release from 2 years ago and nothing ever happens with it. But this Slack plus Atlassian partnership really seems to have delivered in a big way. So going into some of the stats that are mentioned by TechCrunch, you start to see how impressive it is. So over the last 2 years, they've made over 11 product integrations, and that represents over 1 million monthly active users using those Slack plus Atlassian integrations. Jira is the most popular, and Jira alone is sending 42 million Slack notifications per month. So there's some serious usage here. Now, this new integration and partnership is really all about deep linking and native functional embeds. Now, I see that there are two types of Slack integrations. There's the extremely basic one, which almost everybody does, which is send notifications to Slack, which makes sense. However, if everybody's sending notifications to Slack and all it's telling you to do is click this link and go to another application, it starts to get unwieldy at scale. Now, beyond that, there's the more advanced Slack integration, which I think is really the direction that things are going. And that's exactly what we see here from Atlassian. So the advanced integration is the ability to actually control your application directly from within Slack. And Slack starts to become the UI or the control panel for your application. And that's what I mean by a functional native embed. Now, this GIF from the TechCrunch article shows how you might control Trello from Slack. Now, I think this is really cool. However, it does bring back a conversation that I had with Justin Gallagher, who's the VP of product at Trello, long before the Atlassian acquisition and still on to this day. Now, he walked me through some of Trello's product and design principles, and one of them was tactile. Now, what he means by tactile is that you look at the screen, you click on a UI element, and right there, boom, inline natively, you can manipulate the element. There are no admin panels, there's no settings screens, there's no drop-down menus. It just is all right there on the screen in a very tactile manner. Now, manipulating a Trello card with what looks like a command line interface in Slack isn't exactly the most tactile feeling, if you ask me. But that being said, I think they're trying to accomplish something different here, which is not just staying true to the Trello or the Atlassian design principles, but instead driving towards extensibility. And in this day and age, extensibility is all about integrations and deep functional integrations at that. So that does it for this week on the PLG123. Make sure to follow me on LinkedIn for more daily PLG content. And stay tuned for our weekly episode drops of the PLG123, one tab at a time here on LinkedIn. Hope you guys are having a great week and take care.